right. Sophia, thanks so much for making it. We made it.
Yes.
And we finally got to meet up this year. How many times have you been here?
At least 3, possibly 4 times.
Okay.
And I haven't met you. I've been to your gym a few times and
Yeah.
met your students and just been around the awesome vibe. So it's lovely to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, so great to have you here.
Thank you
Just
for having
taught
me.
an awesome workshop, your first part, the women's only class.
Yep.
And all the girls had big smiles on their faces and were really happy.
Oh, good. That's
And
always
really showed that you really care and you love what you do.
I do. I love teaching and sharing information and concepts. I teach in a different way. A lot of the time I cover concepts because I want them to understand bigger ideas that they can then put the techniques into. And I teach for the women's workshops, I teach very women specific concepts that often we're in situations that we're in often that aren't addressed so much because it doesn't happen to the guys so much.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of light bulb moments or, oh, yes, or, oh, I'm glad it's not just only me that feels that, right? And that then builds up that sense of community for the women because they feel that they can relate more and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's totally different. And I was sharing with you earlier, right, with my daughters. That is different, right? It's different. Like we went to Armenia the last couple of weeks, and she was the only girl in a room full of boys. And just for the boys, also for them to see a girl, right, and then for the girl to be good too. And they're still kids, right? But as you become an adult, things change too, right? So it's
yes.
But still, just to have it's different. It's different.
It is. It's a different dynamic, and it's an adjustment. Like even for the guys, to be like, oh, okay, oh, it's a girl and she's really good. It's just the cogs are turning in their brain, and yeah.
Over the years, I've always you always hear because I like to do podcasts with a lot of the black belts. Not just my black belts, but other people I've spoken to that really dedicate their lives to jiu-jitsu, and you always hear the story like, yeah, this girl armbarred me or this girl, and then I was like, I had to learn this. They become a believer.
Yes. Well, it's funny because there have been quite a few guys who've come back, got in touch with me maybe 5 years later.
Wow.
And they've shared their story, and it's like I was their motivation to continue. It's like, so it's good and bad. So the stories that have come my way afterwards, I was their motivation because they trained with me. They could see that, if a girl can do it, they can do it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then there's the other that you become like almost like their nemesis.
But the power, just the power, right? Because being smaller or, being less strong, the fact that you can submit a strong guy, that's like wow.
Yes, but what's interesting is I'm off living my life and doing my thing, right?
Right,
and then they've got this thought in the back of their mind that they've held on to for all these years of, oh, I'm going to catch up and I'm going to kick her butt. It's like, oh, you've been feeling that
for a guy? For a guy?
No, yes.
Oh man,
it's happened a few times.
Really?
So they've got this mission. They're like, oh, I'm going to kick Sophia's butt because she armbarred me 5,000 times in a row. But for me, it's just another day on the mat, right?
Yeah, that's hilarious.
But for them, it's just because it goes against what a lot of boys or men have been taught for society. Girls shouldn't be able to do that. But it's all nice. It's all fun at the end of the day. But it's just interesting how that experience can shape someone's life so dramatically.
Yeah. It's powerful. It shows the power of jiu-jitsu, right? The leverage and technique, right? It's like get beat by somebody smaller, weaker, right?
Jiu-jitsu is an amazing sport. It's a mental aspect that really draws me in. And as I've gotten older, and I've had some quite really big injuries I've dealt with, like my knee, it's blown off, like ACL, MCL.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's taken away a lot of my power. I was very, very athletic as a gymnast. And
you were a gymnast when you were younger?
Yes. So I came into Jitsu just this really powerful athlete, highly trained. And that's what kept me going in the early days when there was no support for women, none whatsoever. I was just this beast, literally a beast, a freak of an athlete from my gymnastics. And I say it without boasting, fact, because I look back on what I did and I'm like, damn.
So tell me, I want to go into how you started in jiu-jitsu, but you were a gymnast. How old are you when you started?
Oh, I started a bit later, like 10 or 11.
Okay,
But
okay.
I did one session with my identical twin sister, and then we literally just got moved straight into the elite group that trained at the gym. And then we went from nothing to training like 4 or 5 hours a day. And so that was my life. And then I stopped gymnastics with a big injury on my shoulder, and then was looking for something that gave me.
How old are you at the time?
18.
18.
So I had a couple of years of just searching, but also partying. Went a bit wild. I needed it though when you live your life with that much discipline.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then later
How's the
on,
gymnastics scene in Australia?
pretty good. I mean, I wasn't at the top, but I, trained pretty seriously. But Australia does pretty well. I mean, the countries that really rock gymnastics are Romania, United States, Russia, China. But yeah. But then I fell in love with jiu-jitsu, did one session and fell in love with it. But I think in my journey of what held me on at the start was my athleticism. But now what's keeping me after injuries and just being a mum and being older, and I don't want to train like that, like I'm burnt out physically, right, is the mental aspect where I'm like, oh, what if we tried this? And like you play mental Tetris, and what about this? And okay, my knee does this, so I can't do that, but what about that? And it just opens up. You go down one branch of the tree, and then that opens up and that opens up. It's actually never ending.
It never stops, right?
Yeah.
It never stops. It's always new, always changing.
It's amazing.
You always have to adapt. There's always new things, and maybe the new things are the old things, but it's always changing.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So you stopped gymnastics, and then you found jiu-jitsu. Where was the first jiu-jitsu gym that you started at?
I think I'm sort of such a long time ago, I've almost forgotten. I remember more my experiences. And these.
What was your first? Did you remember your first class?
Yeah. Well, I sort of hopped around a little bit, but I remember. I don't know if it was my first class. I'd maybe done some few classes. I was in fashion, so I was an artist.
Okay.
I was in fashion design, studied garment construction, fashion drawing.
Okay.
Had my own fashion business, so I used to go to shops and blah blah blah. So I
Okay.
remember being dressed up. I was in
Okay.
this little mini skirt, high heels, little black top, and I walked into the gym. And the guy said, "Honey, you're in the wrong place." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm exactly where I need to be." And he's like, "Ugh." After looking me up and down, I'm like, "Oh." So I get my gi on and I just go about my stuff. But the stereotype was just hilarious. Just hilarious. You made that assumption. So, and it just still happens.
Because there was no. What year was that?
That was 2002.
2002. Yeah, I mean
it's a
now
long
it's
time.
a
It's
totally
holy
different
crap, it is.
situation, right? Because there was no females, like just to kind of people think, oh, there was all these girls, like we have all these girls, and you saw, the mat was filled with women, right? That wasn't the
Incredible.
case. You were the only
Absolutely
one.
not. Yeah.
It was all
The only
all guys.
Yes. But this is
Fight
the
Club
thing.
style.
Absolutely. And the women that did it were absolute boy chicks. Like as in, they wouldn't have their hair out all glamorous wearing miniskirts and high heels. Let's put it that way.
For sure.
So there was a hardcore stereotyping of, all right, you're a boy chick, you're a tomboy, you hang with the boys, you do jiu-jitsu. Okay, cool, you're one of the boys. If you're a chick with a bit of glamour to you,
It's not your thing.
Put you in the corner. We don't take you seriously as an athlete.
So what made you want to do?
That's what I dealt with the whole time.
So what made you want to do it then?
I was a serious athlete, and I mean serious.
Yeah.
Like, there's not many people I know that could do rope climbs with no legs, with their off the floor, up and down 4 times, right?
Damn.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this is my training, and so I was a serious athlete, but constantly with this attitude of like, oh no, we just put her in the corner. It's like, ugh. So at the start, I was proving to them, whoever they was the jiu-jitsu community, which were males, because women weren't leading at all then. And then, but also just proving to me, yeah, I knew I could do this. I knew I'd found my thing. It just felt right. Yeah.
Do you remember your first submission?
No.
You don't?
No, but I don't. But I remember it was quite easy for me to stay on top.
Okay.
Like
Your
because of my
base.
gymnastics, I could float on people quite well. So they'd bench press me off and throw me off, but I'd still find a way to just sort of stay on. I'm like, okay, cool.
Nice, nice. What city are you from?
Where I was born?
Born, yeah.
Oh, Melbourne.
Melbourne, okay.
Australia, yes.
Nice, nice. And who was what was the lineage? What was the jiu-jitsu? Who were the people? What was the school?
So I spent the bulk of my time training in Australia with Dominance Jiu-Jitsu.
Dominance
Which
Jiu-Jitsu.
is John Will lineage. John Will got
The
his
Machados.
black belt from Machado.
Yeah.
Higan Machado. Yes. So that was my lineage for the duration, actually. And then I moved to the United States and then got my brown belt from Higan.
Okay.
He was looking out for me and sort of watching me there and just helping me in the United States and pretty much brought me out, actually. Yeah. And then I moved to Vegas and I got my black belt from Robert Drysdale. And had some kids there while I was at it. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I'm really doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Just really focusing on.
How did you get into competing? What was that? Because I remember hearing about you like dominating. You know, this is back when there was no, you know, it was like there were still magazines and stuff. I think at the time. And I remember seeing your name, and it was like this Australian, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember, I think it was like those grappling magazine kind of days. You know, I remember seeing your name and.
Yeah. So there's not a lot of footage of me competing, and one of the reasons is because all the social media came out kind of basically my last year of a lot of competing. Like Instagram really rose in sort of 2014 and 15.
Right.
Yeah. So
what was the last year of you competing?
2014.
Okay.
like
me, yeah.
Right. Okay.
I've had there was, you know, Scotty from On the Mat.
Yes.
You know, if those guys weren't recording, you know, it was before iPhones, right?
Totally, it was. And so people say, I want to see more of your matches, and I'm like, well, sorry.
Yeah.
The part of it was too, I was a bit of a rogue. You know, I was just sort of floating around trying to find myself and find my space. So I'd often go to tournaments kind of by myself.
Yeah.
It took an extreme amount of strength. My journey has been.
Did you move directly to
one.
Vegas, or were you in another city when you first moved from Australia?
I first moved to California.
Okay.
And the only person I knew, like really, that when I moved over there was Higan.
Okay.
So it was a gutsy move.
Okay.
Yeah. So I literally threw all caution to the wind and just followed my dream. I knew, and I said this to the ladies, and just that I taught today, your students. One of them asked me why I started jiu-jitsu and like what I thought about it first off. And I made a declaration after, you know, very first couple of sessions that I was going to be Australia's first female black belt, which was massive because at the time the highest ranking female was a blue belt and there were only 3 black belt males, I recall, in Australia. And so I was isolated in Australia, so it was a massive statement. But I'm sharing this.
Like unthinkable, you know, really unthinkable,
yes.
yeah.
I'm sharing it because I want to be that living, breathing example, or one of, that you can achieve anything you put your mind to. And it just because someone says, no, you can't do that, doesn't mean that it can't be done. You know, let's look at the 4-minute mile. right?
Right.
The guy broke the record, and then someone else broke his record literally like a month and a half later or something insanely close, because it was programmed in people's minds that it could actually be done. We are our biggest enemy when it comes to limiting ourselves. It's our own self-limiting beliefs that hold us back, not anyone else's. So if you just choose to believe in your truth and you walk your path, you are capable of achieving absolutely anything.
You're an example of that. But female, not only a female black belt, right? But first,
Yes.
Australia, right? But everywhere, it's anywhere to become. In those days, you know, it's really something. People, they don't have the idea of how hard it was.
No, they do not. But and especially
So big
this
respect.
being Australian, so I didn't fit. I was a rogue in every sense of the word, and they didn't want me to win. Basically, they didn't want me to win. It was quite disheartening, but you know, resilience. I have that resilience. So there was that part of my journey rising up and training, competing. Now I moved on to another phase in my life, which was to become a head professor. Now that's also, if I'm to be frank, where I'm also paving the way, because I am out there, I am in the front, I am leading, I am teaching, and I'm setting that example that ladies out there, it can be done. This job isn't just for the men, it's for the women too. And the women need it. They're asking for it. They want it. There is a place for it. And so there's that as the head professor. I've probably taught more seminars than, I don't know. I teach, I travel. It's amazing. I love it. There's definitely a place for it, right? But now the next step is moving forward as a businesswoman. I run businesses in jiu-jitsu. I do stuff that a lot of men don't. As a woman, a rogue woman, you know, I have online programs.
What's the name of your website?
So it's sophiamcdermott.com. And there's...
I see you do fitness things as well, right?
Yeah, so I've got actually 3 different streams. One is online jiu-jitsu program focusing on women-specific jiu-jitsu, right? They join me and they get a training dummy called Barry, and they work with Barry, and they can...
A training dummy?
Yeah, squash the crap out of Barry and have fun with him.
So it's an actual dummy that people can buy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's part of the program.
Okay.
He's custom made.
Oh, wow.
So he's better fit for women. Sounds kind of weird.
So you actually made this dummy, and then you sell them? Okay.
Yeah, it's part of the
you ship
program.
them out? Okay, cool.
But it's unique. It's not taking away from anything. It's icing on the cake. It's adding. It's like very, very specific. And just like I taught today, it's covering scenarios and situations, right? And it just provides that community. So there's the women's online programs, sophiamcdermott.com. But there's also the other part, which is the health, fitness, and nutrition. So there's a lot of athletes for years across my path. Sorry, I'm certified nutritionist and functional fitness trainer as well. So that's what I did during my days working up, you know, like that was my career after I left fashion. Basically, a lot of athletes would come my way who were chronically overtrained and just under-eating and not taking care of themselves. And so what I started doing for a long time was just really creating lifestyle plans, and then I've moved it all online so people can just have access to so many of the amazing resources that I have with my workouts and lifestyle plans and recipes and all that. And then the last one are my events and retreats. So I've been running lifestyle camps for the last 6 years.
Nice.
And I've just partnered with a company actually to do more luxury, high-end retreats
as
well. So
nice. VIP.
Stay tuned for that. Yes, VIP.
Nice. What are some of the places that you've booked and had retreats at?
Mostly on the East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just a bit more demand, actually.
Okay. Like
Florida. And
okay.
Yeah. So there.
So I think of East Coast. I think of cold and like you're talking about like New
yeah.
York, more Florida.
More Florida.
Okay.
It's always warm.
Okay.
Beach. So the drawing card is beach and jiu-jitsu,
okay.
basically. I did organize a couple of like mountain cabin type retreats, and they really didn't take off the same way. I'm like, okay, well, I tried that. I think I'll keep it at the beach.
Cool.
So there we go.
Did you surf when you were younger?
You know, I get asked that question often, and
Yeah.
it just amuses me because I really scared of big waves.
Really?
Yeah, like ankle deep only.
I hear you. I went surfing. Was it yesterday? I got crushed. Not that,
Wow.
but I've been crushed worse, but it's
Yeah.
scary, right?
Yeah, I'm not good around water. I need to be near it, but I don't like going in it so much. So yes, something as daring as surfing is definitely not on my book. Australia though has big waves.
Yeah, yeah.
Like big waves. You know, I grew up going to Portsea Back Beach and stuff. Those waves are ferocious, like terrifying for a little kid.
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is, I was just curious, right? A lot of great Australian surfers, and
yes,
for
it's
sure.
wonderful waves if that's what you love. But if you don't, then they're just terrifying.
Have you ever heard of TACFIT? You saw I'm sure like the logos and stuff in that one room, right?
Yes.
Because back in the day, like Scott Sonnen, the founder of the system, he went to Australia, and it was getting moving quite a bit. He went to like Perth, and not sure if he went to Melbourne, but just curious. We used like the club bells.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay.
I am a bit out of the loop, though, with Australian stuff, to be
Okay.
honest. I've been here so long now. At least
He's
15
American,
years.
Scott Sonnen, the
Oh,
founder
okay.
of TACFIT, but
Yeah.
I was just curious, if you had heard about it, because it was getting, it was growing a lot in Australia when he was involved, when he was going down there.
Fantastic.
Some years, yeah. But I gotta show you. We gotta make you an ambassador or something.
Oh, it
Get
sounds
involved,
good.
yeah.
All right.
Because it's the best thing for mobility and just the real strength, and I'm sure you would really appreciate it being a gymnast and all that,
Yep.
Jiu-jitsu black belt.
It sounds good.
Yeah, yeah, and all the things that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
thank you.
health first, and just taking care of the health and being healthy.
Yes. Yeah, health and lifestyle balance. A lot of things too. It's the mental aspect I focus on too. Yeah.
What kind of you're talking about the like the mindset things, like newness, and then are you talking about lifestyle? What are some of the lifestyle? What are the benefits that you're mentioning or thinking about?
So, on my social media and just my stuff, it's all sort of nice, pretty photos and food recipes or some jiu-jitsu techniques. But the way I roll, like who I am, is I go deep. Like I just go deep right off the bat. And people who know me and meet me, they realize that. But so with that understanding, I've realized that jiu-jitsu and making some serious goals in changing your lifestyle for health, it's in the mind. It's all in the mind. And so a lot of stuff like I sort of bring up or address is, what's going on in your life, what's your mindset, and then sort of trying to just work through things like, well, what's your driving force? Why are you doing this? Why would you be wanting to make change? What are the habits? Why are those your habits? And what do you need to do to break them and stuff? So, yeah, it goes deep, especially with people I work with for the nutrition stuff. Emotional eating.
To be able to change your behavior, right?
Absolutely, it's all in the mind. So, why is it that one person can just make the changes right away, and why is it that someone else really struggles to make those changes? So, what's going on in the mind? What else is someone dealing with? And so I just go deep right away. But I find that it's all concepts, and so that mentality can be taken forward into creating a healthy lifestyle, creating things on the mat, attitudes on the mat.
I love when you say concepts, right? Because concepts is kind of more general in a way, right?
Yes.
And because everybody's so different, so to say for you, a person to do something very specific, it doesn't work, right? Because everybody's so different. So when you talk about concepts, it's kind of for everybody, and then they can make it specific for what they need. They can take, right? Everybody can take something from that.
Yeah.
And make it their own.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
With jiu-jitsu techniques or diet, right? So what are those concepts like nutrition, for example, that you share?
Like food or a mindset.
And as far as food, what are some general or general
okay.
concepts?
Oh, all right. I have been interested in nutrition for many, many years, but nutrition from the perspective of actually how it can heal you. And the reason why is because I was actually a very sick kid in and out of hospital.
Really? Yeah.
Very sick little baby.
Wow.
That had chronic asthma. So I used to have these attacks and pass out and then wake up in the hospital with drips and stuff.
Wow.
I actually still have some scars from ripping out drips out of my arms because I just was fed
Wow.
up with it, right?
Wow.
And so when I was 10, so obviously there's this massive turning point in my life around 10 or 11. I defied my pediatrician. He wanted to put me on even more drugs. I was on so many corticosteroids that were rotting my teeth.
How old are you at the time?
I was 10.
Wow, you're that old.
I dealt
wow.
with all this years. So I was the kid that grew up not having lunchtimes out playing with the other kids.
Wow.
So I would sit there with the ventilator for
and
the
then
hour
you went
while they were out playing.
You went complete beast mode on gymnastics.
Yeah, so I was a genetic freak in the sense of my strength and muscles, but I was sick. So I was not able to show my genetic freakiness. I know it sounds weird, but like when I had a chance, when my breathing was okay, I found that I was always wrestling with the boys. So, so yeah, every morning, every lunchtime, every nighttime, I had to have this big ventilator thing and all these extra medication and drugs. It was just horrible. I had asthma attacks over anything. Like I'd walk past a field of freshly mowed grass, send me off. And so I started realizing when I ate red Jell-O and cheesecake and other stuff that they'd give me at the hospital that I would have an asthma attack. I'm like, And I was 6 at this stage, observing. And so then fast forward, got to about 10 or 11 and I defied my pediatrician because he wanted to put me on more drugs because I failed this breathing test. But I realized I had a bowl of ice cream the night before. And I stood up to him and said, no, this is what's going on. Right? I need to take care of my diet and what I put into my body. And we started arguing. I stood up, literally argued with this dude. And I turned around and said to my mum, don't take me here again. Take me to someone that knows about healing. She took me to a naturopath. And this guy, within 3 weeks, turned my life around. And so ever since then, and that's when I started gymnastics, and I put on 12 kilos of muscle in 1 year.
Wow.
So the genetics were there, right?
Wow.
Like 24 pounds.
Yeah. More than 24 pounds, yeah. Wow.
I had to go shopping more than once in that year. So it started my own journey on my own learning on food to heal, and it's so much more in depth than what you'd learn as like a certified trainer or in just other stuff because, that's been my journey. So I've really understood how food triggers stuff in the body from an inflammatory perspective, and then where that manifests, how it affects your immune system and how it affects autoimmune issues. And so I help with a bit of that. Like I'm not a doctor or anything, but I understand that there is a mainframe of food that generally triggers inflammation that doesn't end up well. Like the result's not good. So, yeah, and I live my life by that. So people used to make fun of me saying, oh, well, she can't eat that because she's got to be ripped and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't understand. I'm doing it for my health because if I do eat it, I can't actually train. But it's been good. Every cloud has a silver lining, right? Because that's what's kept me in shape. And I'm in my early 40s.
That's amazing.
But, still with a six-pack after kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Cool. Yeah, so concepts, going back to the food, right? What are some basic rules, concepts people should stay away from?
Yes. I think there's just some overalls that aren't so good for us, but they're like a mainstream American diet, basically. I think it's one reason why there's so many people that are sick in America. So... And not happy. I think food affects your mind.
For sure, right?
Mood.
People are depressed. They're taking depressant medicine. It's all about the medicine, right?
Yeah. So food affects your body and your mind, right? And
for the doctors, anyway. For the medical, same everybody, but a lot of the mainstream
Yeah.
medical.
So these are foods that are so part of the culture, but really, in my book, should just be eradicated. The first one is processed refined white flour. So bread, basically. Anything from that, like pretzels, cakes, pastries, all of that. And it's not so much flour back in the day, 10,000 years ago, was different. The grain itself was different to how it is now. It's become so highly processed and refined that our bodies don't recognize it. Our ancient gut, our digestive system, doesn't know how to read it. And so what it does, it sends the alarm bells going, what's this? And it creates that inflammatory effect, which then leads to other things. So it's the modern refined wheat grain. A little bit earlier on, I would have said, well, sugar and dairy. And dairy, once again, is okay if you're having it kind of in its raw form, like straight from a cow type thing, but it's, pasteurized, homogenized, and all sorts of chemicalized. Well, I mean, what do they give the cows these days, right? So they're probably the main trio of highly inflammatory stuff, and I do not touch them. Although I will say, confession, I had some brownie and ice cream last night, but I had it's just an insane, crazy trip, and I just whatever, it was my treat day. Anyway.
You had 5-6 cancellations on your flight on the way over here?
My flight, yes, absolutely.
From Vegas to Burbank, but you had 6 cancellations.
And then just some more craziness getting to the hotel. And at the hotel, quite obviously, a bunch of people having a lovely, fun party all night. So not sure what they were doing. Actually, I think I do know what they were doing. But the result is that I didn't get much sleep. So, but yeah, okay. So those 3 for the food. But let's go a step further, because the way they push fast food, high fructose corn syrup, do not touch it. It's so disguised in everything. So, you might order pancakes. You're not getting maple syrup on your pancakes, which is from the tree, right? Your body recognizes it. You're getting an artificial liquid thing that's made in a lab full of chemicals. Okay, so we're not even aware of what.
It's crazy, right? People aren't aware. They're drinking Gatorade and they're thinking oh, it's health, right? Because of the marketing and all that. But it's high fructose corn syrup
with food dyes. So food dye F, D, C, and E. Those are bad. I've seen the kids I used to teach at gymnastics when they would eat that, and then they would go wild. Oh my god!
Especially in other countries, third world, do you think Gatorade is the I don't know, the supplement, right? The it's good for you.
Rockstar of drinks.
Yeah.
No, so there's the high fructose corn syrup. Gatorade's highly acidic too. Anyway, so but then partially hydrogenated vegetable oils, the stuff they put in the Skippy peanut butter. And just a lot
when they have all that sugar in as well and the peanut butter.
But so it's the oils that have been highly refined for convenience for storing and cooking. That's in all of our to-go food, right? That is highly inflammatory. It's got a really high ratio of omega-6 fatty acid. And people are like, oh, but it's vegetable oil. I'm like, oh my God. Do you... the oil that most people cook with, canola oil. Okay, here we go. That was actually made back in the 1950s in Canada, but derived from oil that was used for sewing machines and machinery.
Crazy.
And then they put something in it to make it, or took something out, starts with E, that made it not taste disgusting. And now that is used for what we use for cooking.
Yeah.
So it's all that stuff that's just so widespread in our diet, we don't even think of it. But what that over time is creating chaos inside our bodies.
Poisoning our bodies. Yeah. I was sharing with you earlier, right, about my, it hits home for me, right? When I was every 5 years they make you do a brain MRI for fighting. And I didn't pass my last fight medical because they found these lesions in my brain.
Wow.
And then they said sorry, and prescribed me or gave me a stack. They didn't even prescribe me yet. They just gave me a stack of drug catalogs or books, and to let me decide which ones I wanted to take. And I looked them all up. I actually looked them all up, and
So great you did that research.
Yeah, and it says it may or may not help you, right? But there's side effects.
Yeah, and the list is
Yeah,
goes on
and
forever,
I'm like,
right?
man, like, isn't there something else? Isn't there another way? And so I asked the doctor, I remember at the time, can I still do jujitsu, right? And he's like, yeah, it's okay. I was like, all right, cool. So I started competing and getting out there, and because I was like, you start to. They said also like you're probably gonna end up in a wheelchair, and that wasn't cool, because you're already like kind of like you don't know what's what. But if I didn't have my background in martial arts and whatever, like you kind of don't accept, right? Like this is the way it's gonna be, like
Yes.
You see, and I didn't really take it to heart, I just
That's
find a
one
way.
of my pet peeves.
You find a way, but like between that and that, it's like, so I went out there, I competed, and I really like put my heart out there because I was like, what if I can't do this in 6 months,
Yes.
And I'm gonna go out on my shield, and had some moments, where I was like, man, I actually had one of the moments was going to, it was my last, I did like a little bit of like a world tour and stuff, and I won some big tournaments, some big good names too, in the process. And my last one was just a random IBJF tournament in Madrid, and I did like a tournament every weekend leading up to it, and so I was like that morning of or the night before, I wasn't feeling good. I had to take over the podcast, but then the next morning I couldn't eat. I wasn't feeling good, and then I competed. I became friends with the first guy I was going to compete with. We talked before, and then he dropped his weight on my stomach, and I felt like I was going to throw up. And so then after the match, I lost the match. It was a 3-person in the division, and so I threw up after the match. And luckily I didn't do it during the match because I would have been DQ'd. And I had another one. I even it was bad. And then I was feeling so bad, and the guy was like, "Hey man, you should do the open weight," And I'm like, man, I was crushed, Actually, what happened when the second match, I threw up. I was like, "You okay?" I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And I got choked unconscious. I had never been choked out unconscious ever in training or anything. Just it happens, right? But it had never happened to me.
You just felt so bad.
I was so out of it,
Yeah.
and I was really like demoralized, and I was like, man. And he's like, just put your name, whatever. Maybe you feel better in a couple hours, so I put my name down. I was like, okay, fine, But the first guy I went against, and he talked me into doing it. So I did it. I was like, what am I going to do? Feel bad for myself at the hotel room, right? And so I did it, and I remember I couldn't drink water, I couldn't eat. It's like you have like the flu, right? When you like food poisoning. Anyway, I ended up before the match saying I believe in my technique, and it kind of made me feel good. Just talking about the mindset. And I just kept saying it over and over and over for like a few hours. And I went out there, I won my first match, second match, third match, and won the open division, and then
That's
did the no-gi,
fantastic.
And I always say like it's my, I don't know, one of my proudest like accomplishments. It was just some random
Yes.
rinky-dink IBJF tournament, but it really made me believe in mindset.
Yes.
That anything you think
Yep.
you can do.
Absolutely. It was a beautiful story.
And it made me believe that I can beat like the MS diagnosis, the multiple sclerosis diagnosis.
Yes. And I think you can. The mind is so powerful, honestly. So one of my pet peeves, just quickly to interrupt your lovely story, is the doctors are full of knowledge, right?
Right.
Absolutely. But we tend to put them on a bit of a pedestal. And what we do is that we doubt our own inner knowing, our own bodies,
Intuition.
our own minds, and listen to their authority.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who is that doctor to tell you that in 6 months' time you could be in a wheelchair? So someone that hasn't had your background with your martial arts training and which builds on that character and that mental strength, how do you think they would have responded to that news? That is seriously one of my pet peeves with this whole system, this patriarchal medical system, because that authority figure has then planted that seed into that person's mind. Now that mind is then telling that person that they're going to be in a wheelchair in 6 months. So, like, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy or not? Do you know what I mean? It's like, what if you got a doctor who came across and said, you know what, this is what we found, but there's so many options here, and you can absolutely beat this, and there's not a seed of doubt in my mind that you won't conquer this. What do you think that person's going to feel? And the action that they're going to take moving forward.
It's so crazy, right? And because that fight doctor, he was the fight doctor. he was the guy who does all the medicals in California.
Yeah.
So all the fighters get sent to that guy. So just to have that, not even have that discussion with me was kind of mind blowing.
100%. So even from that background,
that's not even right.
That's right. Yeah. So, but that's come my way all the time.
Yeah,
constantly, just dealing with my own issues with injuries, my own issues as a kid with asthma, and then working with so many people in the field. Like there's so many people that cross my path and they share me this with their stories, and I'm like, no girl or no guy, you got this. Like, don't listen
Ask
to that.
questions, right?
Do your research and march the beat of your
Find
drum,
your own intuition. Follow your own intuition. We have that intelligence, right?
Yes.
Infinite intelligence all inside of us.
We
have
really
the power.
do. And you know, I'm sure we've all heard of that. We only use a small percentage of our brain capacity or something. Okay, this whole thing totally intrigues me, and I'm going out a little bit, but I won't spend too long on it.
No worries.
Okay, I'm like deeply spiritual.
We'll make them wait at noon.
I'll try to wrap this up, but deeply spiritual, and
we'll have them get warmed up by somebody else.
Yeah, rock off. No, all right, we're doing this, and then I just walk off. It's easy work. No, but I like to ponder on really big things, right? And so there's our DNA, and then there's all the strands in the DNA, and they claimed it was junk DNA. How could something so divine have junk in us that is our blueprint? Do you know what I'm saying? And so it just makes you start asking these questions of like, well, is it junk DNA? Maybe it's just because science or scientists haven't figured out what it actually does, right?
100%.
So that's just one little example of questions that I've asked myself, because there's so much that we don't understand in this world, and just because we don't have an answer for it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or doesn't serve a purpose. We just don't understand it, right? And I believe that there's so much going on in our body, like with the junk DNA, that perhaps we don't know how to tap into, we haven't activated or something, where we have the capacity to 100% self-heal. I believe we also have the capacity for full-blown intuition, where we can all communicate without actually opening our mouths. And I believe that if we go in deep enough, we can truly just feel and sense everything around us and tap into this universal source of knowledge, infinite knowledge and energy. It's all right there in front of us. It's just that we might not be in a zone or a radio frequency to actually
quantum physics, like, right? They can't, all the top scientists, these Nobel guys, like they're humble. They're always humble enough to, like, we think, but we don't know.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's so interesting. I mean, let's
like Albert Einstein and whoever else, right?
Yeah.
They like, we think, but we don't know.
Right. It's a hypothesis based on ideas, but quantum physics, it's all in the eye of the observer. Is that thing that we're looking at, that quark thing, is it a particle or a wave? And it acts based on what we decide it will be, and when we're not observing it, it doesn't behave. So that right there is evidence in my book of basically you being the creator of your life in every sense of the word, based on your mindset. And if you tell your body to heal, I believe it will heal.
That's it, right?
Yeah, sorry.
But an atom, right? An atom is 0.9999999 energy, 0.000 whatever 1 mass, right? The nucleus. So it's mainly space. Yeah, we're space. So what we put in that space with our mindset and our thoughts is everything.
Yes. So there's this physicist called Nassim Haramein. I've got a massive crush on him. Like, I'm one of those people that just get so outrageously turned on by like hardcore intelligence and roguish. Like, anyway, sorry. You can edit that if you want. But it's quite funny because I'm fit looking. Men make the assumption that like all I want is fit. I'm quite happy with sort of not fit, but super intelligence, just for the record, anyone. No, just kidding. But basically, he talks about all of this and all the space within the atoms and the space within space. And then is it really space? And so if anyone's interested in all of this stuff, just check out his work.
Yeah. You know Dr. Joe Dispenza as well?
Yes.
I like a lot of, he had he's a Becoming Supernatural, and he's got a lot of other great works.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed one of his books, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and he talks about the same thing, right? With an atom is that, and 0.9999, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you want to be.
Yes, and so where he goes on applying this on a practical level is basically controlling your thoughts, being in charge of your thoughts and breaking those habits. And that right there, actually, that circles back to what we were talking about, whether it's changing or self-improvement and mindset on the mat or with your lifestyle. Yeah. And let's go beyond that too. Let's just go attitude on yourself. Like, I know plenty of ladies that go into abusive relationships and then they'll go back into an abusive relationship. So what's going on in there, you know? So it's covers everything, that mindset of just making growth, making your life better and growing as a person.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, like, well, like it's just kind of going to my story with the jiu-jitsu journey, and then after that moment, my subconscious, speaking of intuition, led me to a TACFIT certification, because I was friends with the founder, Scott Sonnen. Well, he was always kind to me, and he helped me for one of my UFC fights, like the strength and conditioning, and it had such a big impact on me, because I got like suplexed on my neck, and usually it's like 4 to 6 weeks, right? On a lucky way, maybe there's talk about surgery, they give you pain pills, and it never really fully heals, right? And he did an assessment with me, and he showed me some movements, and I was able to heal myself in a week.
Yes, excellent.
And it was that one thing that I never forgot, and that kind of like, this is legit. This is like, I can heal myself with movement. Like, what are you talking about? Nobody ever showed me these things. And then he did this whole blog on our training stuff, and it really blew my mind, all the things that he was talking about. And so my subconscious took me to his cert, after that, my jiu-jitsu, whatever, journey. And I started feeling better, like week by week. Like the harder I trained, the better I became. It's a recovery-based system, the world's smartest workout. It's just all the right stuff that not only I needed to do, but everybody kind of needs to have implemented and things. It's very precise, right? Concepts, but then you can make it, all the pieces are there that you can make it, for you. Not to be like, for you. But yeah, speaking of intuition, and it makes you more intuitive.
Yes.
Intuitive training. It makes you more intuitive with yourself, and right, we all have the power within us.
We do, and it's just a matter of listening to our bodies and tuning in. So I write for health and fitness magazines, sports science journals and stuff. There's an article I wrote, and it's about basically cut back on all the apps. Calorie counting apps, and the step apps and all that stuff. And actually just tune into the best feedback that you'll get is your own body. So what I find working with women a lot is disordered eating. And how that really exacerbates this disordered eating is the counting calories. It's like, oh, right, well, this meal's 350 calories and this, and this has got 25 grams of carbs. Who cares?
How do you feel, right?
How do you feel? Are you hungry? Are you ready to eat? Or have you gone for 8 hours without eating? How do you feel? Do you know what I mean? And then each day might be different. You might just not want to eat that much that day. It's like you've got to tune in and feel, because your body is your best feedback system, rather than some electronic thing that's been generalized for the masses. Calibrated for the masses.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different factors, right? Just like a doctor or whoever, like that thing shouldn't be telling you how you feel and what you need for that day, right?
Absolutely. If you're going to use these tools and apps and stuff, use it for motivation, but don't use it as your guide on how to live your life if you're looking at it from a health perspective.
Nice.
Yes.
let's go back to jiu-jitsu, right?
Yes.
And what are some recommendations, tips you have for girls, doing jiu-jitsu, success tips for them to be successful? It's very difficult, not just for women, but for men too, right? To go down this path.
It is. It's a tough sport. I mean, I'm sure everyone at some stage has walked into a gym in their earlier days, felt a little bit of intimidation or it's like walking into a gym full of muscle-bound body lifting dudes and they're pros and you're trying to go, oh, what does that equipment do and that do? It's the same thing. So I think particularly though with women, the way we're wired is what we need is a collective support network. So men work in a linear hierarchy, women work in a circular collective group. And the reason why it's so much harder for us is because we've been thrown into a patriarchal society system world, and jiu-jitsu is a patriarchal system within this patriarchal world, so we are forced to fit into a system that doesn't actually work for us. So and this is why I do what I do. I'm here to add that feminine touch which just rings true to our biology basically, which is a collective system. So my advice for all women starting out is to seek that female support. Go to gyms where there are females already there that have that welcoming nature, not the bitchy competitive nature as well, because there's plenty of gyms that have that, and I have a theory for why that occurs. And then work your way up and support each other together. My other thing is with a woman, most likely you'll be training with bigger, stronger opponents, right, the men. And so speak up. Okay, I understand that there's a respect, don't turn down roles, as a black belt you can kind of have a bit more freedom with that stuff. But if you
talk to the professor, right, and talk to the coach, hey, I need this, I need that.
Yes, have that. Hopefully the professor will have an understanding, but I'll tell you,
experience, intelligence.
There is a lot of professors that don't. They have no idea how to empathize or relate or see anything from a 120-pound woman's perspective. So they actually need to be educated on that. So, but my advice to women...
How do you educate them?
Bring awareness to it in a non-confronting, accusational way, basically.
Yeah.
A lot of men with women's stuff, they just need to have that awareness brought to them.
So maybe you can just talk to the professor, right? And
yes.
Have that conversation.
But there are women at gyms that don't have a support where they can actually freely talk to a professor. So, I understand that the women can talk to you openly and freely. You'll be there to listen and support, but there's plenty of gyms around that don't have that. So if a woman is in that gym, she has to take the reins, she has to take charge because she has to look out for her body. And if she's 120 pounds or whatever, she has the right to say, no, I'm not going to roll with you. No, basically. Because she's the one that deals with the repercussions, not him.
Yeah.
And there's been plenty of times where, you could feel the vibe and he's like, it's like, oh, and he's like, oh my God, he's using me as a measuring stick and he just wants to test me and see how good he is against me. You feel it. And then if you're just not up to it, you're like, no, I'm not rolling with you today. I'm not willing to be your measuring stick today. And there's no justification. It's just a no. So women tend to justify and apologize and because they don't want to ruffle feathers. We're raised to, always be the nice, accepting, not make people feel bad. And I'm here to say, no, jiu-jitsu is confronting, it's real and raw, protect your body. And if it means that you think you're hurting someone's feelings, then that's their issue.
Yeah. Yep. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. I wanted to, you're talking about it before, just how we all have everything inside of us and the intelligence of the body. And I don't know, some years ago I did a dissection of the body. I've been fascinated, all in on neuroscience and fascia. And up to the years that go by, but up to around 10 years ago, they would just cut away the fascia, right? And it's not important. Fascia is if you do orange, right? It's the skin. It's around every slice, the white stuff, right? And between every what do you call it? A fiber, right? There's a little white stuff inside of an orange, right? And so that holds everything within our body, right? So it's the same thing. Our nervous system, our immune system, the inflammation, right? And our hormones and everything kind of travels through that, But just the fact that, it was cut away in medical school like 10 years ago, right? Just, it really fascinates me. And we're in a like much different place thanks to some of this technology. Just I did a dissection going back to that. And we went all the way down to the bones from like
Wow.
the skin.
Yep.
And, it was hard for me the first day, but, and we're amazing, just from the
Took all the
organs and everything.
levels.
It's just like, who did this, who designed this, and really respecting that we do have all of these gifts and we do have infinite intelligence. We have the power,
Amazing.
right, within ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and what's also interesting, like, so you've looked at the skin, the fascia, the muscle, the nerves, all of it, right?
Yeah,
Now,
eyeballs,
what's really interesting
brains.
is that each section has its own consciousness.
Yeah.
And when I say consciousness, it's that each section knows what it's meant to be doing. Each cell knows where it's meant to be and what it's meant to be doing.
We can go on and on, right?
It is. It's just fascinating. When you understand all that, and to finish off, because we're probably
Getting
coming
close,
to a
yeah.
close, right? When you understand how amazing this is and how well arranged and designed and perfect this is, that gives you a sense of gratitude. And I think that operating with a sense of gratitude for your body actually makes a difference to your health too. So something I do every morning, my kids know this. I wake up in the morning and I have a huge glass of purified water with some lemon in it. It's the first thing I do. I don't eat before it, anything. And I stand there in my moment facing the sun and I drink my water with the thought that this is going through my body, healing my body, honoring my body, loving my body. I am grateful for my body. I guess it's my morning prayer, but it's to me, right? And that sets the day off with just a sense of gratitude. And my kids can be saying, "Mummy, blah, blah, blah." I've literally got my back turned because I'm in my ceremony of having gratitude for my body. And they're like, "Oh, no, okay, just wait till Mummy finishes her big glass of water," right? So it's just having gratitude for the simple things that are with us every day. And I really think that then just changes
Trickles down,
things.
right?
Yeah, through everything.
Sets the tone.
Yep. There you go, everyone. You know my morning ceremony.
Well, thank you, Sophia. Thank you for all your work and nutrition, spreading the right messages, the fitness, the jiu-jitsu, women, female jiu-jitsu.
Yes, thank you. I know
being a source, a strength, right, for females, that they can do it, they can be
Yes.
successful at it. So
Yeah, look, we touched more on nutrition, but basically,
we'll talk again in the future.
we will, but if more women come and try jiu-jitsu out, more women come for self-defense reasons. It honestly is so empowering. So that's a big part of what I do. I want to bring women into this sport and help them stay in this sport, because once they're physically empowered, then they're empowered mentally, all other aspects of their life. So that's pretty much it, to sum it up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cool.